Humankind has not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together. All things are connected. That saying is attributed to Seattle, Chief Seattle. And when I found that online, looking through a number of quotes from Native Americans, it just seemed to hit what it was that we are doing here today and what we're going to be talking about and experiencing for the next couple of days. And I think that what he's talking about here is that we, in this web of life, this tapestry, if you will, we are all part of it. Even though we might be a single thread, that thread still has a function of binding the whole together, creating an aesthetic, having a function. And what we're trying to understand in a situation like this is that how do we fit and how can we work within the natural world in which we've been born into. And as we have been born into it, and it's in a particular state where we don't know much about, we have the opportunity now to see if we can change a few things and get back, as it were, to our roots. I began my experience with the casino. I had an education in horticulture, and I brought that education here with me to the casino. And I think that the overriding concept from my director was that they wanted plants to be of the native habitat as much as we could do, and to be, without him actually saying this, to be green. I have a background, before I went to university, I taught myself through books how to garden, vegetable garden, organically. And primarily that was through a process called biodynamic agriculture. And I learned about that through reading books, and so I came into my job with this idea of already understanding, having an understanding of the green process, if you will. So it's been been the goal of my group to cleave to the desire to stay green, native. In our case, because of where we live and where we are, it's a very dry area, to have drought-tolerant plants, no matter where they come from, whether they be from California or whether they be in maybe one of the 5 touristic provinces we know as Mediterranean climates, or any plants that would also, who are also well adapted to these type of climates. So in our landscape, as an example, we have both native and non-native plants. And over the years, over the 12 years that I've been here, it's been a situation where I wanted to incorporate something other than native plants, because the native plants were started, I got them going. Then I thought, well, I want a little more diversity. And diversity, of course, is kind of the staff of life that keeps us to know who we are, as it were. As we know something that's different, we learn more about ourselves. So I began to incorporate a bit more of the non-native plants, but they were going to have to meet the criteria for where they live and the conditions in which we give them. One of the important aspects of growing plants in an area like this, or in any area, is your soil. You basically want to grow your soil. You need to nurture it. In a situation where we had the casino, they built the casino, and then a year later they built the hotel we see here. Well, everything that was once there was scraped away. All the soil, all the native natural soil was all scraped away, and they built these buildings. And in large part, they filled it up with a lot of what we call road base, and then covered it over with some kind of soil. And then they, of course, planted plants, and we had to deal with it like that. And over the years, I began to incorporate fertilizers, organic fertilizers, that primarily had mycorrhizal fungi. And these fungi, there's several types. The 2 main types are the endo and the ectotype mycorrhizal fungi. And I found when I started to use them that the plants were really doing well, because they were not initially planted this way when I first came on. And as I began to use these fertilizers, I found that, and I believe through the mycorrhizal fungi alone, it changed the course of how these plants would deal with very foreign soils that were actually not soils in some cases. And so we began to incorporate lots of organic amendments, which eventually began to create in our own because we do have two small composting operations. And then we began to look for plants that would fit our locale and go from there. Going back to the mycorrhizal fungi and its properties and characteristics, more or less, when there is a good union of microbiological organisms in the soil, those microbiological organisms can do an awful lot to mitigate issues in the soil itself, in that biome, if you will. And so, taking advantage of that, the plants and these mycorrhizal fungi, they have the ability to create an interface, a web, and it's a fungal web. And these fungal webs actually exist naturally on the earth. It's just that through time, any place where there have been disturbances in the soil, those situations change. That whole hyphae, if you will, that goes and spreads out throughout the earth, it becomes disturbed over time. Here at the casino, I was telling you that we have several places. We have this hotel. We have a hotel down the road, Hadston Inn. We also have an employee resource center down in Buellton, just a few miles away. And we have a couple of parking lots also. And these parking lots afford the casino the opportunity to bus in the employees, because we have about 1,500 employees. So we have two parking lots in different areas geographically, and we're able to bus people in. Because of that, they bought some land, and we created two parking lots. Come on, sir. This is our parking lot in Santa Maria. It's a 5-acre lot, and one of the important points I want to make about this lot is the way that it was designed for the capture of pollutants from rain runoff from the parking stalls into this swale here. They call it bioswale, and that serves a very important function for mitigating oils and tars and what have you that come off of vehicles. And it goes in with rain runoff, goes into that bioswale. Now the bioswale is filled with, on your sheet there, you'll see at the very bottom there's a square, and there is some aggregate in there. And that's a trench to lead off water that comes through from the rain and gets into this bioswale. And that's been covered with a kind of geotextile fabric, which helps to keep foreign matter out. It's basically just liquid going through. That liquid eventually goes down that bioswale and is led down into a retention pond that's close to a creek. That's one of the reasons that the bioswale exists, because we are very close to a water course. Now, the function of the bioswale is such that the plant goes in the soil. There's a lot of these, what I would call the microorganisms that we were talking about earlier. They play this function. There's also chemical and electrical things going on. There's the electrical conductivity and the pH of the soil. And since this is primarily sandy soil, there's not going to be a lot of that. And what has happened is that over time there was organic matter added to that in order to create a kind of biological entity. Just sand alone, it's just inorganic. And there's not, you don't have the same types of biological interfaces going on. So the plants are planted into this media, and it's the roots of the plant, in this case, that are going to be capturing some portion of the pollutant that comes off of the parking lot there, and then through the action of microbiological organisms, they will then play their part in order to mitigate the pollutants coming in. It takes some time, and it really comes down to the right plants. Unfortunately, in this particular place, we had a type of plant that was planted in there, and it's not really the best. It is a very good drought-tolerant plant, and so my plan is to oversee this with the native grass. Our other parking lot in Lompoc does have the native grass in their bioswales. They have only 2. We have 5 bioswales here. And I honestly cannot tell you if it's actually working. I don't know that per say we've never done any testing. But it does serve a function for possibilities of being able to mitigate some of those issues with pollution coming out of the parking lot there.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. So, Dennis obviously knows his stuff, and I'm not going to go into that. What I am going to say is we have a great team of people in our office, and we do a lot of similar activities, and they're always looking to build the soil, looking for new innovative ways to incorporate techniques like this into the landscape. What I want to talk about is the change that we're trying to make here today. So I know some people are here to make changes in their facilities, in their tribal hall, in the casino. I'm just going to mention how it's going to be lasting. So in your organization, in your structure, you're going to make these policy changes, and you're going to have to follow those rules at work. You're going to do green purchasing, you're going to do native landscaping, but what really makes it lasting? And for me, is the community. And that's what I want to focus on. So, throughout this talk, you guys are going to hear a lot of innovative ways to create, a more sustainable facility. And I'm going to mention how the changes you're going to make in your facility can make a more sustainable community. And, one of the ways is we talk to the youth, we have education programs, and we invite people to the tribal hall for workshops. Sometimes people show up, sometimes they don't, but we're not going to give up. We're always looking for ways to bring in the community and to showcase the changes that we make to them and take that message home. Because we're all here doing all this hard work, and we're going to, change isn't easy, it's difficult, it takes time, it doesn't happen overnight. And that's the same for the community. And so, because of that, it's what's going to make it lasting, the change that we're going to make here today. And, just to touch base on some of the things that I'm particularly proud of that we do in the office. We do a zero waste event for our powwow. And last year we had a diversion rate of 87.5% of our waste. And some of the other activities we do in the office is we do a reservation cleanup, and we act kind of similar to a public works division. And we go out, we get the safety vests, hard hats, and we walk around the reservation. We pick up waste, we take photos, we divert all that waste, we weigh it, we know where it's going, we make sure hazardous materials make it to the right place, we make sure all our recycling makes it in the recycle bin, and we make sure what isn't recyclable or hazardous makes it to the landfill. And that's just one way as an office, as an organization, we prevent pollution on the reservation. We keep that trash out of our rivers and streams, which eventually makes out the ocean, which affects everyone. And we know that. We know what we do affects not just us, not just our community, but all communities. And you can see some of our tribal youth here in our powwow. And that's to me is really important. That's kind of what the office is really all about for us, is serving the community. We don't just create policy change, and we don't just do these things for our benefit, we do it for the community. And so, some of the cool stuff we do, you can see, it was up here. All right. So, our Facebook. There's too many pictures to put into a PowerPoint and really show, so I thought I'd just show you here. Oh, some recent postings already. For me, Facebook's been a pretty powerful tool. It's free, it gets the message out, and it really showcases what we do in a really simple way. You can see us here, day one of our green facilities workshop, and you guys are making that happen. Thanks to Mariana, we're having our coastal cleanup day, an event open to the public, and it's a great time. I love doing that every year. And it just keeps going. This is a great photo of everyone looking like they're having fun, because we do. This is one of our tribal youth interns. She's a rising star. She's going to college, and and she came back for a second internship on her own. And this is, to me, it's a success story. It's what we're trying to achieve here. And she actually helped Eric put this conference together. And she took the skills that they worked on together, and she's going to spread the message of what we're doing here today. So, and it just goes on. You can see the team here working at our Chumash Learning Center. Recently, 2 oak trees were relocated to the Learning Center, and so the team had the opportunity to redesign the landscape, and they put a lot of thought into it, and pollution prevention, water retention, the health of the plants, cultural aspects, opening the play area. These were all design aspects that came out of our awesome team that we have. And you can see them in that parking structure in the background. Someday that oak tree will cover it. And so, I just really want to mention some of the things that I feel are successful. You can see Tim Ochoa here, hiding in our newly planted forest. This actually is a bioswale here too. It's quite large. This was a partnership between County Flood Control and ourselves. And what you're seeing here is 2 years of hard work, hand work, going in, pulling weeds, mulching, putting the plants. And at this point, it looks great. I mean, Tim's actually a really tall guy. You can't tell in this photo. He's like 6 feet tall or something. And all these new plants and trees, they're collecting pollution. They're also stopping the stream from head cutting towards the parking lot, which parking lots are expensive. And it was our job to make sure it didn't slide off into the creek. And so it's looking beautiful. We got some willows, sycamores, some things Dennis was talking about. And it just really goes on. So, and I know it's... Question? Yes.
You said there was a joint venture with the county.
Yes.
How difficult was the work with the county? How much bureaucratic?
Almost zero. So they contacted us. They knew we had... They know the stream runs through the reservation, the San Dakota River, and they contacted us. They know we have, we've had flooding in the past. The casino flooded once. Residents were impacted by floodwaters, and so they contacted us. And one of the biggest issues was because the casino is so rapidly expanding. When grading was done in one area, actually for the Chumash gas station, that soil was brought in to build this parking lot. And the growth is so rapid that in the end, we had to come in and make sure there was pollution prevention measures and make sure the stream was stabilized. And so when we partnered with the County Flood Control, they basically came in, we had a partnership agreement. We would do the maintenance, the upkeep, we prepped the site. Their team came in, planted the plants, worked with our team and laid the irrigation. And now we come in, we weed it periodically, make sure it's looking good. And actually, that was only the first phase of that project. It actually was halted by the drought. And the plants you see there, we had for almost 2 years in pots. And as you know, plants do not want to be in little tiny black pots for very long. They're going to die. So we made a decision to go ahead and move forward and put them in the ground. And that's the results. So as far as red tape or anything like that, no. I think we got lucky though. The guy that works in the office, his name's Andrew, and he's a really nice guy. Came out. It's a great partnership.
All right. The reason I asked, we tried to do that, we just ended up with another bureaucratic nightmare of trying to, because they want to have all their controls and all the control of it and all their standards. And so I just wondered.
Yeah, we didn't run into any of that. He was definitely open to sharing, and we cost shared on the project. So we foot the bill for running irrigation out there. We did all the handwork. We ordered the mulch, and his team came in and did the planting. So, it was a good experience. And it's not over. That was the first phase. if we get El Nino, if we get out of the drought, this and that, you know, because it's not that popular putting in a ton of plants right now in California in the middle of the drought. But this one had to be done, and it was actually a success. So partnerships are good, can be. Yeah.
We were also involved in terms of like the propagation of the plants. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so Ayumi is not only project manager, videographer, he's also our head seed collector and propagator. A lot of the plants you see there were collected off the reservation or around the tribal hall. So we've already spent all the money getting the plants that we want, and they produce seeds. So our next phase is to open up a nursery. And the plants you see there were willows from cuttings from the creek, seeds that were gathered by our team, and then were propagated by the county off-site and then brought back to us. So overall, pretty successful. It brought the cost way down. You know, plants are expensive. If they had to buy 500 plants at $10 a pop, you know, there's the whole budget. So what we did is we started from seeds that our team collected under Ayumi's guidance. And I'll keep it brief. Here's some more of our learning center. Free shower heads for everyone in the county. Us at bioassessment training. And some of our wetland programs. So, you know, I just really wanted to talk to you guys about that. What I think is successful, what I think is another facet of what we're trying to do here today. And that's just basically reaching the community. So hopefully all the changes you guys make and everything we learn here, you know, just keep in mind that it's not just for us, it's for everyone. And so I just wanted to get that across. So thank you.
Hey guys, so my name is Andrew again. Clay and I both started around the same time earlier this year, and we have really not comfortable with microphones, but no, I'm kidding. So I'm gonna touch base on our zero waste program. When I first started with the office, I wasn't totally sure what that was, and I was very intrigued to find out that it's something that I'm not sure why hasn't been implemented all throughout different organizations, groups. It's been fun to be a part of this within the Chumash community. So, start it off with. So as you can see, very simple. It's a very durable, sturdy type of cardboard material we use for our bins, so we're not hauling around a plastic material or metal material to collect our waste. So we set these up at different locations, different sites, for all sorts of activities within the Chumash community. One that I really enjoyed setting up for was this past summer was the Camp K event for the youth. And so each morning we would set up these bins, and there'd be about 45 to 60 kids each day having a breakfast, a snack, and a lunch, and an afternoon snack. So we processed a lot of material. As you can see, you have your landfill, your compost, and your recycling. And really what I would like to touch base on with the zero waste is that it was a community outreach effort for educating the young that there's a place for everything, and especially with what you're so fortunate to consume, which is food, and you know, so it's nice for people to learn, or young people to learn the difference between these. And we were able to divert about 70% throughout the summer was food scraps that wasn't ate, but we were able to reprocess that and turn it into soil, which we have vegetables that we are picking every day now. So our zero waste program, you know, we place the bins around so people can see them. They can, I think the green, blue, and black has become very synonymous with our environmental program. It seems to be something that if you're going to come to an event on our reservation, besides being at the casino, which I know they do their own waste sorting, you're gonna see our bins, which is really cool. So I'm very happy to clean it up at the end of the day and sort through everyone's mess. Some impact numbers. So the Zero Waste program started in 2010. Started small, like anything that you would like to see grow larger, and so 43.7 cubic yards was created in 2010, which isn't much. You can see 1 cubic yard is about a full-grown man, and a cup if you fit into a box. But then you can see down there 3 cubic yards laying right there. That's a good bit. So you think about that as 43 yards. It was a good bit, but 25, well over 50% of it was that went to the landfill. So our number wasn't that great, but over the years, you'll see that we have vastly improved that. Here is our 2000. Sorry. Okay. This is, I believe, our 2012 powwow. I'm still learning how large these scale these powwows are, but this is just a little example of how those who are sorting the waste deal with it, and how it can be fun to know you have a part in making sure things aren't going to the landfill. So. And I don't know if you saw on that one line about informing vendors on safe biocompostable as well as biodegradable materials to use when we put on these zero waste events. I think that's one of the most important messages with our program is to inform people that there's options besides your go and buy a bag of plastic forks when you could have a semi-cardboard, corn-based plastic or alternative. So here's just a little breakdown. We've continued to increase our zero waste events, and our waste has really started to pick up towards more composting of our materials as well as recycling. So now is our 2014 powwow, which Julio touched on. Really great job of diverting it, whether we composted it or we got it to the right recycling. So that was great. And what we do as an environmental office is a little smaller scale than say what the Chumash Casino does with their industrial composting, but Clay will touch on how we take care of our smaller events like Culture Night, the Camp K, and different committee meetings and such. So.
All right, so you guys kind of saw how we sort our waste into 3 different bins. one of the bins is compost, and this is a quick overview on the different composting methods, different ways of processing depending on how much volume you accrue, whether it's just in an office setting where you get a few gallons from day to day, or if you have events where you're collecting very large volumes of compostable material. You gotta figure out how to process it. You can either attempt to do it on site, or what we've done in the past with some of our bigger events like the powwow is finding a piggery where we can give the food to, and they actually feed a lot of the food scraps to the pigs, and that was one way of doing it. And here's some examples. Vermicomposting is using worms to process your material, so you could have a simple worm bin like we have at our tribal hall. And so we take our waste out of our break room and we just set it in these bins, and we turn it from time to time, and the worms inside break down the material for us. And then we have a few other methods that are available, just kind of listed. If you were to want to process that material on site, you could create a windrow, or you could do it in a much larger vessel than these little composting bins. Some of the benefits of composting would be the carbon sequestration. So the method of breaking down the material is going to cause it to release less carbon and less methane into the air. So there's some beneficial things that you can do with composting other than keeping it from going into the landfill. And with our diversion rates, it's actually a huge amount of material that we could prevent from going to the landfill and that we could process on site. So, here's one of our office bins. You can see the type of material that goes into the compost. Pretty simple. And it's pretty affordable to start a program, even in a small office setting or at home. You can see a container, you could spend $70 on it, or you could even just build a wooden box and have your own. Very simple to start, and there are just a few simple things you have to keep in mind, like not putting meat in the bins. Here's another method of composting that we do. Vermicultures, or use worms. This is actually a different process where we're breaking it down using bacteria and fungi. And so we layer carbon material and nitrogen material, which is the stuff we get out of our compost bins, and add water, and it turns it into soil. And like Andrew was saying, we use that in some of our garden beds. We have an example garden bed by our tribal hall. You'll get a chance to see it, and we use some of the material that we compost in those garden beds, and you'll see how well they're flourishing probably tomorrow. So these are maybe just some questions you could ask yourself to see if this would really apply to your area, if you could use it. And here's our info if you want to contact us. I'm sure you already have some. That's it. Thank you.
Oh,
Hello, just out of curiosity, how many of you host your own powwows? Anyone here? A couple people? Great. So I just really quickly wanted to talk about the green initiatives we take on. I know Andrew talked on it really briefly and how our diversion rate has gone up over the years. One thing that Julio's been working on with our powwow committee has been getting our vendors on board, like Andrew mentioned. So the video you guys saw was from 2012. When they started planning the 2013 powwow, they decided that by 2014 they wanted to have a complete ban on styrofoam usage during our powwow. So in 2013, our committee decided to set up an initiative to encourage people to kind of cut back on the type of waste that they're creating. So they decided that for our vendors who went with some kind of recyclable or compostable like service, like a plate or utensils or anything like that, but they would kind of give them a discount on their vendor fee. And that actually worked out really well. I think it was like a $20 off and just to kind of prepare them for the 2014 styrofoam ban. So they let them know, if you go and do this, you know, we'll give you a discount on your fee because the following year you won't be allowed to use styrofoam. And that actually worked out really well. All of the food vendors jumped on board right away. Nobody used styrofoam in 2013, which kind of brought us 1 year, you know, ahead. And we also let people know that if they jumped on board a year before, that we would give them a green award to display in front of their booth. So we made these certificates that said, you know, 2013 True Match Powwow official green vendor. And we gave the list of those green vendors to our MC, and throughout the event, they were making announcements like, please support, you know, such and such vendor. They jump on board and are using environmentally friendly products. So that really helped people identify which vendors were looking out for their health, were looking out for the environmental benefits, and were helping us cut back on our waste. Because those who were using paper, you know, we were able to send that into the compost bin versus styrofoam that was going in the landfill. So that was a big thing in 2013, and in 2014, when we put out the styrofoam ban, everybody was already on board because they jumped on board the year before. So that was a really good step for us in the right direction. Another thing that we did to kind of green up our powwow was we partnered last year with Clean Canteen. For those of you who have really big powwows, reach out to them. They are a great resource. And they brought out water filter stations for us. So people were able to bring their own reusable water bottles and fill them up instead of purchasing single-use plastic water bottles. Our powwow is in October. It's really hot out. And we had so many people come over to us in Clean Canteen and thank us for having water available, and also for allowing people to fill up their own water bottles. So if you, so Clean Canteen is really busy. They do these events year round. So unfortunately this year they won't be able to make it to our powwow, but that really encouraged our staff to build their own water filter stations. So Julio and a few of the other guys on the field team decided that, you know, we have these events all the time, not just our powwow, you know, once a year, but we have events within the calendar year, whether it's the Camp K summer camp, which runs for an entire month with about 50 kids. We realized that there really was a need for a water station. So the guys built their own water filter station that we're utilizing year round now. And, you know, having Clean Canteen help us out that 1 year really inspired our staff to do that. Another thing, like Clay and Andrew mentioned, was we partnered with the local pig farm to give our food scraps to the pigs. We had a solar company come out and let us use one of their portable solar panels, so people had cell phone charging stations. We have people who camp out on our powwow, so they were able to go to the charging station and charge up, you know, camera batteries, cell phones, just anything they needed. In the upcoming years, we're trying to get our campers on board with zero waste, so providing them different bags to sort their waste while they're camping. What else? Oh yes, we partnered with Waste Management, which is a local waste hauler in the area, and they helped us by having us use their big roller trash bins instead of these smaller ones. So it cut back on our cost for renting more zero waste stations, and they're just easier to pull the bags out if you can put more waste in a bag than these smaller bins.
Your waste haulers are a pretty good resource, and
They're
we're gonna touch about it tomorrow more in detail of how they're helping us with our projects. But waste haulers are a pretty good resource to kind of get a good idea of what kind of programs you can start within your own communities.
And offering them to promote their services is also really good for them. So, you know, they helped us out and we promote them as a sponsor. So, any questions before we move on?
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's fantastic to be here. My name is Andre Villasenor. I serve the American people with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. I work out of our Los Angeles field office. I've been with EPA for about 10 years. Prior to joining EPA, I served in the U.S. Peace Corps in the Ecuadorian rainforest. Here at EPA, primarily what I've been doing the last couple of years is it's called Sustainable Materials Management. We used to call it waste management. Now we are beginning to understand that every piece of waste is actually a material that it's really a resource. So we are working with stakeholders all over the country to begin to find new uses for the materials, to generate income from new resource management, and that is essentially what I do at EPA as well as other things as well. So today what I'm going to be talking to you about, I'm going to talk to you about 3 different programs that I thought might be relevant to U.S. tribes. I'm going to talk about food recovery. So we have a sustainable food management program at EPA nationally. And then I'm going to introduce to you a brand new EPA label called Safer Choice. Raise your hand if you've heard of Safer Choice. Great, because it's brand new. Raise your hand if you've heard of the Energy Star. Anybody use Energy Star? How about WaterSense? WaterSense, great. Those are EPA labels. This is the latest and greatest. We're hoping to get 1 million tweets on this one. And then I'm going to round out with another brand new debut, an EPA debut, called the Tribal Green Buildings Toolkit. And so what I would like to ask you to do is I have some forms here, and if you want to learn more about any of these programs I'm going to talk about, like the Food Recovery Challenge, if you think it sounds interesting, if you think your tribe might want to join the Food Recovery Challenge, you can put your contact information on the Food Recovery Challenge sheet, and then I will contact you about it. If you are interested in possibly piloting the Safer Choice cleaning label at your facility, actually using the products with EPA's assistance as a pilot, you can fill out the Safer Choice sheet. And if you want to learn more about the brand new EPA Tribal Green Building Toolkit, I have another sheet. Put your contact information and we will contact you. You can fill out one of the sheets, you can fill out 2 of them, you can fill out all 3 of them. So Eric, can you kindly distribute these? And just make sure they get circulated. So my tribal connection, I actually have a tribal connection. When I served in the U.S. Peace Corps, I was lucky enough to meet a woman down there. I was located in a very remote village in the Amazon basin with about 500 people, and I met a Shuar woman. A Shuar, that's a tribe in Ecuador. There's about 40,000 Shuars in Ecuador. There are lots of other tribes in Ecuador. This is actually one of the largest. And we married and have 2 children who are both 50% Shuar. So I love going back to Ecuador to visit the Shuar territory every few years, take the kids down there, see their giant, massive Shuar family. So now I'm going to get into food recovery. First, I'm going to give you some shocking statistics just to kind of get you inspired to start to recover your own food at your facility. So I have here a picture of a stadium. This stadium represents how much food we waste here in the U.S. on a daily basis. Did you know that we waste so much food every day here in the U.S. that we could fill up a college stadium with their wasted food on a daily basis? That's a lot of wasted food, right? Imagine filling up an entire stadium with wasted food every single day. That's exactly what we're doing right here in the U.S. That's costing us $165 billion annually in wasted food. That's $500 for every woman, child, and man here in the U.S. That's money coming out of our own pockets, whether as individuals, as I'll show you, or as a tribe, or as any business or organization. And this is occurring when we have a hunger issue here in the U.S. about between 1 in 6, 1 in 7 people, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, 1 in 6 people are experiencing food insecurity. Even though we've got enough food to feed those people, based on the example I just gave you on the filling of the college stadium. And pay attention to my presentation because I have some prizes. I'm going to do a little quiz at the end of each section, and whoever gets it right, I have something for you. So this slide is showing you essentially that the largest waste stream we have, or material stream, Cinema Materials Management, the largest material stream that we have going to landfills is food scraps. And guess what the least recycled waste stream is? Food scraps. So we have this huge opportunity to recycle right now. About 1/5 of our total municipal solid waste discards after recycling are food scraps, and yet we're only recovering about 2% nationwide of our food scraps. Now, if you are interested in composting and you are unable to do this on your property, the good news is that composting nationwide is actually on the rise. There's a magazine, an organization called BioCycle, and they do an annual conference every year, twice actually, I think once on the East Coast, once on the West Coast. And they have a database called findacomposter.com. And so you can use that database, findacomposter.com. You type in your address or your zip code, and then it actually generates a map for you showing you where the nearest permitted composting facility is. Now, a little bit about water. Here we are in California experiencing a historic drought. There were wildfires all over the West. You may have heard about the massive fires taking place in Washington State. There's wildfires taking place right now in the Big Bear area. Wildfires are increasing. The drought is increasing as well. And yet we use 1/4 of our fresh water to grow food that is ultimately wasted or lost. 1/4. So we could save 1/4 of our water by merely making sure that we use all of the food that we produce. And it's also costing us a lot of oil. 300 million barrels of oil are used to grow wasted food. 300 million barrels of oil each year are used to grow wasted food. And the U.S. food waste uses enough land to feed all the hungry people in our country. Twice over. Now, global warming, talk about that for a second with this slide. This is showing you that if food waste were a country, it would be the 3rd largest emitter of greenhouse gases behind China and the US. That's pretty amazing, right? The 3rd largest, so you're in a conversation, who emits the most greenhouse gases in the world? China, the US, and food waste. Now, where is all this waste occurring? So there's a number of studies out there. I took this actually from the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. And this actually, what it shows you is it shows you where the losses and the waste are occurring from farm to fork. So you're looking at production losses, where a lot of produce is getting wasted and lost for various reasons. Post-handling and storage losses, processing and packaging, distribution and retail, and the largest loss is actually occurring at the consumer level, eating our plates of food, where a lot of food is getting wasted at the consumer level. So there's a lot we can do as individuals as well as organizations to reduce our food waste. EPA has the food recovery hierarchy. Raise your hand if you've ever seen this before. Okay, so one person. This is the food recovery hierarchy, and what it is, it shows you the most preferred to the least preferred methods of reducing food waste. So the most important thing that needs to be done in order to reduce food waste is prevent it from happening in the first place. That's called source reduction. If you can prevent food waste from happening in the first place, then in addition to preventing food waste, you're also going to benefit economically, and you're also going to reduce your environmental impact. So source reduction is very important. Everything else is going to end up costing you money. So So if you have leftover food, you've already made the food purchase. So you spent money there. If you have a restaurant, for example, and you prepare that food, which goes in the trash or gets donated to other people, you have to have paid somebody to prepare the food for you. You have to have paid for the gas and the water, the electricity, to create that food that then gets wasted. So that's why source reduction is so important. If we can reduce food waste at the source, we're going to save money, as well as all those natural resources I mentioned, 300 million barrels of oil every year, a quarter of our potable water. Food waste, as the third largest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions, will prevent all of that from happening. So that's where you can have the biggest impact financially, socially, and environmentally, is source reduction. If you do have leftover food, then the next thing in the hierarchy is to feed hungry people. Donate surplus food that's suitable for human consumption, unserved, to hungry people. If you have food that's already been served to people, then you can feed it to animals in those cases. Next is industrial uses of food waste. Who can tell me what an industrial use of food waste is? Anybody? An example, what do you think that means, industrial uses of food waste? Yes?
Biofuels.
Biofuels, right. So if you have fats, oils, and grease, you can turn it into biodiesel. Anybody heard of anaerobic digestion? Anaerobic digestion, that's another industrial use. That's where you put your food scraps into an oxygen-free vessel, free of any oxygen, and then it breaks down, and what gets produced during the digestion of the food scraps is methane. And methane is a natural gas that you can then use for energy. So that's a good industrial use of food scraps. When food scraps go to a landfill, landfills are designed to be airtight. Then the methane gets released and it goes into the atmosphere, and that's a greenhouse gas emission. Anaerobic digestion, it's sealed. You're capturing that methane, and then you're turning it into energy. So that's a wise use of your food scraps. And then whatever's left over, the residuals, then you compost. So composting comes after you've done your industrial uses. And then as a very last resort, shame, 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 sending food scraps to an incinerator or to a landfill. That is a food recovery hierarchy. So if you are interested in using the food recovery hierarchy and tracking your wasted food and beginning to prevent, reduce, and recover, then we have a program. It's called the Food Recovery Challenge. Can you raise your hand, please, and tell me if you have heard about the Food Recovery Challenge? Okay, so a couple people. This is kind of a relatively newish program. It's been around for, I think, 4 years now. It's part of our Sustainable Materials Management Program. And the Food Recovery Challenge is a free EPA partnership. We have a variety of EPA partnerships: Energy Star Partnership, WasteWise Partnership, WaterSense Partnership, and many others. This focuses specifically on food. It's a free EPA partnership to help organizations to formally track, measure, reduce, and recover their wasted food. So this is just looking at the homepage of the Food Recovery Challenge website, epa.gov/Food Recovery Challenge. Who is in the Food Recovery Challenge? You can join any organization. Private organizations, public organizations, governmental organizations, schools, colleges, tribes, any organization that is an organization can join the Food Recovery Challenge. Right now we have 780 participants and endorsers nationwide, including 3 tribes. The Mohegan tribe, they are located in, anybody know where the Mohegan tribe is located? Connecticut, yes. The Chumash Casino Resort, raise your hand if you were at the Chumash Casino Resort. Yes, give them a hand. The Food Recovery Challenge. And the, I'm afraid to pronounce this one, Snoqualmie tribe, they are located in Washington State. So those are the 3 tribes in the Food Recovery Challenge. We want to boost those numbers and get more tribes in the Food Recovery Challenge. So as that Food Recovery Challenge sheet is circulating around, if you want to join, just fill out your contact information. And as you can see, a lot of other organizations are in it too. Big ones like Walmart and Disneyland. In 2013, Food Recovery Challenge participants reported to the US EPA that they had recovered 370,000 tons of wasted food, 36 million tons of which was used as donated as surplus food to hungry people. That's the equivalent of 56 million meals that were fed to hungry people in the Food Recovery Challenge. Which one?
Whatever you decide.
370,000 tons recovered by Food Recovery Challenge participants, 36 million tons of which was used as surplus food. That's the equivalent of 56 million meals. Do you have a question?
And then the disposition that is eligible for that, it could go to hungry people, go to animals and industrial uses, or?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Source reduction, which is prevention, donate to people, donate to animals, industrial uses, compost, and as a last resort, landfilling or incinerating. So what are the benefits of joining the Food Recovery Challenge? So the main benefit is the database we have. It's called the Sustainable Materials Management Database. It's password protected. Every Food Recovery Challenge participant gets their own account, their own password protected account. And what they do with the database is on an annual basis, they report their tonnage of food waste that's been prevented, donated, or recycled, like composting or industrial uses. And the reason that database is so important is because when you measure your food waste, that's the most important step you need to take in order to begin to reduce it. You need to see how much food waste you're generating in order to be able to begin to reduce it in the first place. We have a variety of tools and guidebooks. I'll just tell you about one or two of them later. We also offer food recovery webinars on roughly every 2 to 3 months. We have a Sustainable Materials Management Web Academy, and part of that academy includes food recovery webinars that are designed as online trainings on various aspects of food recovery. So for example, in September, we're going to be hosting a food recovery webinar specifically for K through 12 schools that want to donate surplus food. Here in Region 9, we have a quarterly food recovery newsletter, and the newsletter contains information on all aspects of the food recovery hierarchy. We have awards and recognition. We actually award the Food Recovery Challenge participants that have the highest rates of food recovery, as well as some of the most innovative food recovery programs. And we offer one-on-one technical assistance. How much does that cost you? It's free, right? Because it comes from EPA. It's paid for through your tax dollars, but it's a lot cheaper than hiring somebody to provide all this free. So this is all free for you. And a lot of these services and products, you can actually use them even if you're not a Food Recovery Challenge participant. The only real thing you would need, if you want to use the database and get awards and recognition, then you would need to be a Food Recovery Challenge participant. Otherwise, everything else is available on the Food Recovery Challenge website. Just wanted to share with you Chumash Casino Resort Certificate of Achievement. Region 9 Administrator Jared Blumenfeld visited the Chumash Casino. Was that this year or last year? This year, to recognize Chumash Casino for their stellar food recovery achievements. You'll hear about that after my presentation. And here's the database just to show you like what's involved before I join this, how much time is it going to take, how much do I need to invest. It's very little, especially if you're already tracking your food waste. All you need to do once a year is you go into your password protected account and you just tell us how many tons of food waste you prevented, donated, or recycled. And if you want to figure out your diversion rate, you will also enter your landfilling tons. That's it, once a year. What do we do with the information? Well, we do a variety of things with it. One thing we do is we aggregate all the participants' information. Food recovery, that allows us to report to the public to say, Food Recovery Challenge participants diverted 370,000 tons of food waste in 2013, because the public wants to know. And then the other thing we do is it helps us when we create and publish our annual Advancing Sustainable Materials Management Report, which used to be called the Municipal Solid Waste Characterization Report. That information, we do not share any individual data with anybody, because this is private information for a lot of corporations, private companies, for example, don't want to share in their individual information, but we do share the data as a whole. We aggregate all of it. And then the other thing we do with the information is we award our highest achieving participants. So, anybody know who this man is? Anybody know? Okay, this is Bill Emerson. Anybody here donating any surplus food, organizationally? Any organizations? Do any of you think that your tribe might be interested in donating surplus food at some point? Anybody? Possibility? Okay. So you can actually donate surplus food as an organization and be free from liability because thanks to Bill Emerson, congressional representative from Missouri, he helped pass this during the Clinton administration, and it's called the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Food Donation Act, and it basically protects organizations from liability when donating surplus food. As long as the food is wholesome and good to eat, it's been unserved, and it meets food safety standards like storage and temperature criteria, this act protects organizations from any kind of liability when donating surplus food. Bill Emerson, he served as a congressional representative until 1996, until he himself became compost. Oh, speaking of compost, have you seen the new environmentally friendly Tom Cruise action movie that's out in theaters this year? It's called Mission Compostable. So, if you're interested in donating surplus food, there are lots of ways to do it. But I did a little bit of research about where to donate surplus food here in the Santa Barbara-ish area. Food Donation Connection, they're a national organization, foodtodonate.com. They will actually help you find a food bank if you have surplus food as an organization. They'll provide you with an account to track your donations, and they'll help you identify any tax incentives that you might be able to enjoy as an organization from donating your surplus food. So foodtodonate.com. Santa Barbara County, lessismore.org is kind of a, they also have information on food pantries. And if you are growing produce or food on your land and you have leftovers, you have surplus, you can donate it through the Food Bank of Santa Barbara County's Backyard Bounty. And an additional resource to donate surplus garden produce is Ample Harvest. So rounding out the food recovery presentation, just wanted to tell you about two different tools that you can use. Anybody can use these. You don't have to be a Food Recovery Challenge participant. You can just go to the Food Recovery Challenge website. If you're interested in doing a food waste audit, like getting a snapshot of what's in your trash, what kind of food waste is in there, how much is in there, and what food waste could have been donated or composted or turned into industrial uses, then you can use the guide to conducting and analyzing a food waste assessment. It's a hands-on guide that literally shows you how to pull the trash out and analyze it and weigh it and see what sorts of food could have been recovered. That's kind of a short-term snapshot tool. EPA is actually going to be hosting a tribal waste assessment training, which is going to include organic materials and food scraps in the Southern California area soon. I don't know the exact date, but I think it's going to be in the fall. So if you provide me with your contact information on the food recovery sheet that I passed around, I can let you know what it is. If you're interested in tracking and measuring your food waste longer term, like you're a restaurant and you really want to you want to see patterns in your food waste, if you want to be able to see what exactly is getting wasted, how many pounds, when, and why, and then you want to use a computer program to see those patterns, then you use the EPA Reducing Wasted Food and Packaging Toolkit. It's both a guide that provides you with information on how to recover your food, as well as an Excel spreadsheet that you can use in the kitchen, or like a restaurant kitchen, for example, a hotel kitchen. And then there's the guide itself, which is a document with information like case studies, strategies you can take along the food recovery hierarchy, what actions you can actually take. So we did a number of webinars on this. We actually did 4 training webinars, and those are available now on the Food Recovery Challenge website if you want to learn from them. So now for a quiz. So just a couple of examples. This is the, who knows how to pronounce this tribe? Pinoleville Poma Nation. They are located in Mendocino County and had a straw bale construction workshop, which is part of the Tribal Green Building Code, is how to build straw bale homes and buildings. And on their website, they actually have tutorials on building straw bale structures. Who knows how to pronounce this one? This tribe? Anybody? Potawat Health Village here in California. They have a 20-acre conservation easement, and they built a wellness garden, which is right here, featuring native drought-tolerant plants. And they also have clinics. So if you want more information on the toolkit, if you want to get some kind of guidance, you can fill out the sheet that I passed around. Has everybody had a chance to look at those 3 sheets? Food Recovery, Safer Choice, and Tribal Green Building Toolkit. Anybody not seen the sheets, one of the 3 sheets? Okay. Where are the sheets, by the way? Okay, excellent. All right. But the 2 main contacts for the Tribal Green Building Kit are actually located here in Region 9 because the Region 9 developed the toolkit. Region 9 is Arizona, California, Nevada, Hawaii, and Pacific Islands. So specifically built, the toolkit was made here, and it was actually designed with extensive input from tribes. When you read the toolkit, it has a list of all the contributors to the toolkit, and tribes were contributors to the toolkit. So if you want more information, you can contact the 2 EPA contacts I have there, Michelle Baker, Timothy Hunter. You can just contact me and I'll put you in touch with them. And these are the websites. So to round out, just to remind you, first of all, let me do my final quiz. My final quiz question. What is the name of the toolkit I just talked about? The name of the toolkit. If you know it, you get the tattoo. The last tattoo.
Green Building Toolkit. But I'm perfect.
You want to try it again?
No.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody want to tell me the name of the toolkit? It's the full name of the toolkit?
Tribal Green Building Toolkit.
Yes, the Tribal Green Building Toolkit. You get the tattoo. So just as a reminder, if you need any, if you want to get information on these, like I said, I'll contact you, or you can just go to these websites, epa.gov/Food Recovery Challenge. They're all epa.gov, all of them, and they have a slash after them, right? So epa.gov/Food Recovery Challenge. That's for food recovery. epa.gov/Safer Choice. That's for the list of Safer Choice labeled green cleaning products. And thirdly, epa.gov/Region9/tribal. And the reason it's Region 9 is because, as I mentioned before, the Tribal Green Building Toolkit was designed right here in Region 9. And I have one final website listed there, which is coming up is the Region 9 Tribal EPA Conference, and they're seeking speakers, presenters. So you can go to the Region 9 Tribal-EPA-Conference.com website and get information on that conference. I think it's taking place in Reno in October. And if you want to submit a speaker abstract, you can do that. That concludes my presentation. Any questions before we move on to the Chunash's presentation? Any questions about what I just talked about? Yeah.
No one else has one. Sure. So I see how Food Recovery Challenge was covering a niche that really wasn't kind of happening out there. On Safer Choice, so I know there are already standards like Green Seal out there that recognize superior products. I'm curious if about the e-case process on that? Are they actually kind of vetting projects directly with the manufacturer, or are you taking cases where it meets the Green Seal standard or some other standard that it meets Safer Choice?
Yeah, all the Safer Choice products are vetted on their own.
Okay.
We do that separately from any other green seals.
So you're having to do like toxicology research and, okay.
That's right, yeah. We do the research on the ingredients in-house, and then we have third-party auditors for the actual audit portion of the products. Anything else? Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.